Your husband and your daughter are spending Christmas with his ex-wife. My mother, Evelyn Callahan, said those words to me on a cold Saturday morning, and for several seconds, I couldn't even process them. My name is Audrey Callahan. I'm 36 years old, a wife, a mother, and until that morning, I believed I knew exactly what my family meant to me. I was standing in my kitchen with a mug of coffee in my hand, staring at the Christmas tree in the corner of our living room. The lights were already glowing, and beneath the tree sat the presents I had spent weeks choosing for my husband, Nathan Whitmore, and our 10-year-old daughter, Lily Whitmore. I slowly lowered my mug. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" My mother didn't hesitate. "I said Nathan and Lily are spending Christmas with Sabrina. Sabrina Monroe, Nathan's ex-wife. The woman whose name had quietly haunted our marriage for years, even though I had never given her a reason to be part of our lives." I gripped the coffee mug tighter. "Why?" My mother sighed as though I were being difficult. "Because Lily needs someone who understands her." My stomach tightened. "She has me." There was a pause. Then my mother said the words that would stay inside my head for months. "She needs a real mother, Audrey." For a moment I couldn't breathe. I looked toward the Christmas tree again. There was Lily's present, wrapped in silver paper, a small wooden music box I had ordered 3 weeks earlier because she had once told me she wanted something she could keep forever. I had spent 10 years being that person for her, the person who remembered everything: doctor appointments, school projects, birthday parties, lost shoes, bad dreams, Christmas lists. The person who stayed awake when she was sick and sat beside her bed when she was afraid. I had built my entire life around making sure my daughter never had to wonder whether she was loved, and now my own mother was telling me that I wasn't enough. I swallowed hard. Did Nathan agree to this? Yes. That single word hurt more than everything else. I sat down at the kitchen table. "So my husband agreed to spend Christmas with his ex-wife and our daughter?" "Don't make it sound worse than it is, Mom. How else am I supposed to make it sound?" "You're being dramatic." I closed my eyes. Of course, that was always the word she used when I reacted to something she had done. Dramatic, sensitive, selfish, unreasonable. My mother had a talent for making cruelty sound like advice. Then she delivered the final blow. "If you don't like it, divorce him." I opened my eyes. She continued before I could respond. "Maybe Sabrina can give Nathan the family he actually needs." I didn't argue. That surprised even me. For most of my life, I had argued with my mother. I had explained myself, defended myself, apologized when I hadn't done anything wrong. But that morning, something inside me simply went quiet. I looked across the room at the framed photograph sitting on the shelf. Nathan had one arm around me. Lily stood between us, laughing at something outside the frame. We looked happy. We looked like a family. And suddenly, I wondered how much of that happiness had been real. I hung up without saying goodbye. Then I sat there for nearly 10 minutes, staring at my phone. No call from Nathan. No message from Lily. Nothing. I could have called him. I could have demanded an explanation. I could have driven straight to his office. Instead, I opened my email. At the top of my inbox was a reservation confirmation I had received months earlier. A trip to Hawaii, 7 days. An oceanfront hotel. A flight I had already paid for. I had canceled that trip twice. The first time because Lily had a school performance. The second time because my mother had said she needed me. There had always been a reason. There was always someone who needed Audrey. My daughter. My husband. My mother. Someone's birthday. Someone's emergency. Someone's feelings. I had become so used to putting myself last that I no longer remembered what it felt like to put myself first. I opened the reservation. The flight was still valid. I stared at the screen. Then I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile you make when you finally realize you've been fighting for something that may not even be worth saving. I booked the flight. That afternoon, I packed one suitcase. I didn't tell Nathan. I didn't tell my mother. I didn't tell anyone. When Lily came home, I wasn't there. When Nathan returned from work, he found my suitcase missing. He called me immediately. I answered. "Where are you?" "At the airport." "No, you're not." I looked out through the terminal window at the runway. I needed some time. Nathan was silent. Are you coming back for Christmas? I looked at the departure board. No. Audrey, I interrupted him. You agreed to spend Christmas with Sabrina. That isn't what— It's okay, Nathan. No, it isn't. I closed my eyes. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to make everyone comfortable. I wasn't trying to fix the situation. I wasn't begging my husband to choose me. I simply said, spend Christmas wherever you want. Then I ended the call. I expected to feel devastated. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. And if you're listening to this story right now, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from? And what time is it there? Tell me in the comments. I always love seeing how far these stories travel. And if you've ever had a family member make you feel like you weren't enough, stay with me, because what happened next completely changed the way I saw my mother, my husband, and the woman I had spent years believing was the enemy. I just didn't know it yet. That night, while I was standing barefoot on a Hawaiian balcony, watching the sunset disappear into the Pacific, my phone suddenly rang. It was Nathan. But this time, he didn't sound angry. He sounded afraid. Audrey, he said quietly, I need to ask you something about your mother. I stared at the darkening ocean. What about her? Nathan took a breath. I think we've both been lied to. And for the first time, I wondered if leaving home had been the beginning of my mistake or the beginning of the truth. The next morning, I woke before sunrise in my hotel room in Honolulu, and for several seconds I had no idea where I was. There was no sound of Lily running down the hallway, no coffee machine humming in the kitchen, no Nathan asking whether I had seen his keys. There was only the soft sound of waves outside my balcony and the faint hum of the air conditioner. Then I remembered everything. Christmas, my mother, Sabrina, Nathan agreeing to let our daughter spend the holiday with his ex-wife. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the suitcase I had thrown together less than 24 hours earlier. I had expected to feel guilty. Instead, I felt strangely calm. My name is Audrey Callahan, and for 10 years, I had measured every decision by one question: how will this affect everyone else? That morning, for the first time, I asked a different question. What do I want? I ordered coffee and breakfast, then walked down to the beach alone. The sky was still pale when I reached the water. I took off my sandals and let the cool Pacific wash over my feet. I thought about the Hawaii trip I had canceled twice before. The first time, Lily had been 7 and had developed a fever 2 days before my flight. I hadn't hesitated. I canceled everything and stayed home. The second time, my mother had called me 3 days before departure, crying because she was having trouble managing some paperwork after my father's retirement. She told me she had nobody else. I believed her. I always believed her. Looking back, I realized that "I need you" had been the most powerful sentence in my mother's vocabulary. Whenever she said it, I came running. When Lily needed me, I came running too. When Nathan needed me, I came running. I had spent years convincing myself that this was what a good wife and mother did. But somewhere along the way, I had confused being loved with being constantly available. My phone buzzed while I was sitting on the sand. It was a message from Evelyn. I hope you're enjoying yourself while your family celebrates Christmas without you. I stared at the message for several seconds. There was no question, no concern. No. Are you okay? Just another reminder that she wanted me to feel guilty. I turned the phone face down. Later that afternoon, I received another message. This one contained a photograph. Lily was sitting beside Sabrina at a restaurant decorated with Christmas lights. Lily was smiling, but it was a small smile. Nathan was sitting beside her, and he wasn't smiling at all. Sabrina was looking toward the camera with an expression I couldn't understand. It wasn't triumph. It wasn't happiness. It looked almost like worry. I enlarged the picture. Behind them, I noticed a man standing near the entrance, talking to someone outside the frame. Something about the scene felt wrong. I almost called Nathan. Then I stopped myself. If he wanted to explain, he could call me. A few hours later, my phone rang. Nathan. I stared at his name until the call nearly ended. Then I answered. Hello? His voice was quiet. Where are you? Hawaii. I know. I frowned. How? Your mother told me. Of course she had. What do you want, Nathan? He was silent for a moment. I need to ask you something. Go ahead. What exactly did your mother tell you about Sabrina? My stomach tightened. She told me Sabrina needed to spend Christmas with Lily. That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? Nathan lowered his voice. Did she tell you why Sabrina and I divorced? I leaned back in my chair. She told me Sabrina left because she wanted a different life. That's what I was told too. His words made me sit up. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't think that's the whole story. I didn't know what to say. For years, Nathan had spoken about his first marriage as if it were simple. Sabrina had become unhappy. She had walked away. Nathan had eventually moved on. Then he met me, and we built our life together. At least, that's what I thought. Why are you suddenly questioning it? I asked. Because Sabrina didn't ask to spend Christmas with us. I froze. What? She didn't arrange this, your mother did. My heart started beating faster. Mom said you agreed. I agreed because your mother told me you wanted some time alone and that Lily would be happier with someone she already knew. I stood up. Nathan, what are you talking about? I thought you wanted space. I stared at the ocean through the glass doors. I didn't ask for space. Silence filled the line. Then Nathan said something that changed everything. I think your mother told both of us different stories. I sat down slowly. Why would she do that? I don't know. Then find out. He breathed out. That's what I'm going to do. Before hanging up, he said, Audrey, there's something else. Sabrina told me something yesterday that I can't stop thinking about. What? He hesitated. She said my mother-in-law knows exactly why she left me. I felt a chill move through me despite the warm Hawaiian air. What does that mean? I don't know yet. He paused, but I'm going to ask her. The call ended. I stayed sitting there long after the screen went dark. I had left home because I thought my mother wanted to replace me. Now I was beginning to wonder if Christmas had never really been about Sabrina at all. That evening, I walked along the beach until the sun disappeared. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about whether Nathan would come after me. I wasn't thinking about whether my mother approved of me. I was thinking about the question Nathan had asked. Why did Sabrina leave, and why had my mother spent so many years making sure I never asked? The morning after my conversation with Nathan, I woke to 7 missed calls from him. I stared at the screen, wondering whether I should call back immediately. Before I could, another message appeared. Call me when you're awake. I found something strange. I called. Nathan answered on the first ring. Audrey, I'm sorry. For what? For believing my mother-in-law before asking you what actually happened. I sat on the edge of the hotel bed. What happened? I went to your mother's house yesterday. My stomach tightened. Why? Because I wanted to talk to her about Sabrina. He paused. She wasn't there. Then why were you at her house? She had asked me to pick up some Christmas decorations from the storage room. I remembered something Sabrina said, so I started looking around. I waited. And I found a box. What kind of box? A wooden box with Lily's name on it. My heartbeat quickened. What was inside? I haven't opened everything yet. Nathan. I know. He sounded frustrated with himself. But there was something inside that made me stop. What? A hospital bracelet. I couldn't speak. Lily had been born 10 years earlier at St. Mary's Hospital. I remembered that day clearly, or at least, I thought I did. I remembered the bright lights. The smell of antiseptic, Nathan holding my hand, my mother waiting outside the delivery room. Everything after Lily was born had always been described as the happiest day of my life. Why would my mother have Lily's hospital bracelet? I asked. That's what I'm trying to figure out. I heard papers moving on his end. There's also a photograph. Of Lily. No. Of you. My chest tightened. What kind of photograph? You were asleep in a hospital bed. Lily was in a bassinet beside you. I closed my eyes. Who took it? I don't know. Nathan went quiet. But there's a date written on the back. What date? The day Lily was born. I stood and walked toward the window. Nathan, maybe my mother kept those things because she was my mother. Maybe. His voice changed. But Audrey, there's a letter too. From whom? Your mother. My hand went cold. What does it say? I haven't finished reading it. Then read it. I don't want to do this over the phone. Nathan, you're in Seattle. I'm in Hawaii. Read it. He exhaled. There's one line that keeps bothering me. What line? He hesitated. It says, if Audrey ever learns the truth, she will never forgive me. I felt like the floor had moved beneath me. Are you sure? Yes. I didn't answer. Audrey? I'm here. There's more. He continued carefully. The letter mentions Sabrina. That name again. The woman my mother had spent years teaching me to distrust. What does it say? It says, she cannot be allowed to tell Audrey what she knows. I closed my eyes. Suddenly, every conversation with Evelyn about Sabrina began replaying in my head. She's unstable. She'll destroy your marriage. She only wants Nathan back. Don't let her around Lily. At the time, those statements had sounded like a mother's warnings. Now they sounded like instructions. Nathan, I whispered. Don't tell my mother you found anything. I wasn't planning to. And don't confront Sabrina yet. Why? Because if my mother has been hiding something for 10 years, she may still be hiding something now. Nathan was silent. You're right, that sentence scared me more than anything else. My husband had always trusted my mother. He had defended her during arguments. He had told me she was only trying to protect us. Now he was finally seeing what I had refused to see. Later that day, Nathan met Sabrina. He called me afterward. She didn't ask me to come back. What did she want? The truth. I waited. She said your mother told her 10 years ago that if she talked about what happened at Street Mary's, she would destroy your marriage before it even had a chance to begin. I felt a cold pressure in my chest. But I met you years after Lily was born. Exactly. Nathan's voice dropped. Which means whatever happened wasn't just about my first marriage. That sentence stayed with me. Whatever happened wasn't just about Sabrina. It was about me. It was about Lily. It was about something that happened before Nathan and I had even built our life together. That evening, Nathan sent me a photograph of the wooden box. The words written on the lid were simple. Lily 2014. Underneath it, in smaller handwriting, were 4 words. Do not let Audrey know. I stared at the photograph until my eyes hurt. My mother had always told me that she did everything for my family. She had said every cruel thing was meant to protect me. But now I had a question she had never prepared me to ask. Protect me from what? 3 days later, Nathan called again. This time, he sounded different. Audrey, I opened the rest of the box. I held my breath. And there's a file inside. What kind of file? Hospital records. He paused. And there's a name on the first page. Whose? Yours. I looked toward the ocean. For the first time since arriving in Hawaii, I wanted to go home. 4 days later, Nathan sent me scans of the documents. I opened them one by one on my laptop while sitting alone in my hotel room. The first page was a hospital record from Street Mary's. The date was the 14th of October 2014, the day Lily was born. My name appeared beside the words, Mother. Nathan's name appeared beside Father. Everything looked ordinary until I reached the second page. There was a section marked Maternal Authorization. Beneath it was a signature, Audrey Callahan. I stared at it. Why did my mother sign a hospital document for me? I asked Nathan over the phone. That's what I asked the hospital. And? They said the record was restricted because it involved a confidential incident. My heart began pounding. What incident? They wouldn't tell me without authorization. Then how did you get the file? Because Dr. Malcolm Reeves agreed to speak with me. I recognized the name. Malcolm Reeves had been one of the doctors at Street Mary's when Lily was born. I remembered my mother mentioning him once. She had called him the doctor who saved everything. I had never questioned what she meant, Nathan continued. Dr. Reeves retired 6 years ago. He's willing to meet with us. Us? He said he won't discuss it without you. I stared at the screen. Nathan? I'm not sure I want to know. I know. His voice softened. But you deserve to know what your mother has been hiding. The next morning, I flew back from Honolulu to Seattle. I hadn't told Evelyn. I didn't want her preparing another story before I heard the truth. Nathan picked me up at the airport. When I saw him, neither of us knew what to say. He looked exhausted. I probably did too. Finally, he reached for my hand. I'm sorry. I know. I should have asked questions years ago. I looked at him. We both should have. We drove straight to Dr. Reeves's office. The retired doctor was waiting for us with a thin folder on his desk. He was in his 70s, with silver hair and the tired eyes of someone who had spent decades carrying other people's secrets. "Audrey," he said quietly. "You look just like your mother did that night." I sat down. "What happened?" He looked at Nathan, then back at me. "There was a medical error shortly after Lily was born." My fingers tightened around the chair. "What kind of error?" "A medication was administered incorrectly. It caused Lily to have a serious reaction." My breath caught. "Was she okay?" "She recovered." Relief washed over me. Then Dr. Reeves continued, "But that wasn't the only problem." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" "There was a second incident. A medication record was entered under the wrong patient number. Your mother discovered the error before the hospital's internal review." Nathan leaned forward. "And what did she do?" Dr. Reeves looked uncomfortable. "She asked me to keep the matter private." I stared at him. "Why?" "She said you were emotionally fragile after giving birth. She said you might blame yourself." I felt tears gathering in my eyes. "I was never told anything." "I know." He lowered his gaze. "Your mother convinced several people that revealing the error would cause unnecessary trauma." Nathan's jaw tightened. "And Sabrina?" Dr. Reeves looked at him. "Sabrina worked in the hospital administration office at the time. She was one of the people who noticed the discrepancy in the records." I felt my stomach drop. "So she knew?" "Yes." "And my mother knew she knew?" "Yes." Suddenly, everything made sense and nothing made sense at the same time. Why would my mother tell me Sabrina was trying to destroy my marriage? Dr. Reeves didn't answer immediately. Instead, he opened another folder. Inside was a copy of an old letter. "This was written by your mother." I recognized the handwriting instantly. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. The letter was dated 3 years before I met Nathan. The first lines were addressed to someone named Gordon, my father. "If Sabrina speaks, Audrey will learn about the hospital incident. She will blame me for keeping it from her. I cannot let that happen." I stopped reading. Gordon had been dead for 5 years. My father had taken that secret to his grave. I continued. "Audrey has finally started rebuilding her life. If Sabrina returns, she will reopen everything. I need to keep her away." Nathan looked at me. "Audrey." I couldn't speak. I read the final lines. "She must never tell Audrey what happened. If necessary, I will make Audrey believe Sabrina left Nathan because she was selfish and unstable." I lowered the paper. For 10 years, I had believed Sabrina had abandoned Nathan. For 10 years, I had believed my mother had protected my marriage from a woman who wanted to destroy it. The truth was the opposite. Sabrina had tried to tell someone what happened. My mother had stopped her. Dr. Reeves quietly said, "Audrey, your daughter was safe. She recovered completely. There was no permanent injury. But your mother made a decision that wasn't hers to make. She decided you couldn't handle the truth." I looked at Nathan. His eyes were filled with regret. "Why would she do that?" I whispered. Dr. Reeves didn't answer, but Nathan did. "Because she wanted control." I shook my head. "No, she loved me." "Maybe she did," he said softly. "But love doesn't make what she did right." On the drive back, neither of us spoke for several minutes. Finally, I said, "I want to talk to Sabrina." Nathan nodded. "So do I." Then my phone rang. Evelyn. I stared at her name until the call stopped. A minute later, she sent a message. "Where are you?" I didn't answer. Another message arrived. "Audrey, please call me. There are things you don't understand." I looked at Nathan. "She's scared." He nodded. "She knows we found the file." I looked out the window. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of what my mother might say. I was afraid of how much more she had hidden. I met Sabrina 2 days later at a quiet cafe across town. Nathan came with me, but he stayed silent. This wasn't his conversation, it was mine. Sabrina stood when I entered. She looked older than the woman I remembered from old photographs, but there was nothing threatening about her. She looked tired. "Audrey," she said. I nodded. "You knew," her eyes lowered. "Yes, you knew what happened at Street Mary's." "Yes. And my mother knew you knew." Sabrina nodded again. "She did." I sat across from her. "Why didn't you tell me?" She took a slow breath. I tried. "When?" "Before you married Nathan." I stared at her. "You tried to contact me several times." She reached into her bag and placed an old envelope on the table. My name was written across it. I opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter dated 11 years earlier. I read the first paragraph and felt my chest tighten. Sabrina had written that she had discovered a discrepancy in Lily's medical records and wanted me to know that my daughter had been involved in an incident at the hospital that was never properly disclosed to me. At the bottom, she had written her phone number and an address. "Why didn't I ever receive this?" I asked. Sabrina looked at me. "Your mother intercepted it." I closed my eyes. "How do you know?" "Because she called me." Sabrina's voice became quieter. "She told me that if I continued contacting you, she would tell Nathan I was trying to destroy his future." "And you believed her?" "At first, no." She paused. "Then she showed me messages she claimed were from you, saying you wanted nothing to do with me." I looked at Nathan. His face had gone pale. "I never sent those messages," I whispered. "I know," Sabrina said. "I eventually realized they were fake." I stared at her. "Then why did you leave Nathan?" She looked at him for a long moment. "Because your mother gave me a choice." "What choice?" "Stay quiet and leave Nathan alone, or keep talking and watch her tell him I was obsessed with him." Nathan looked down. Sabrina continued. "I was already exhausted. I had lost the marriage. I had lost my home. I didn't want to destroy his life too." I felt something inside me break. For years, I had imagined Sabrina as the woman who abandoned Nathan. The selfish ex-wife, the person my mother warned me about, but the woman sitting across from me hadn't come to take my husband, she hadn't come to take my daughter. She had spent years carrying a secret she never wanted in the first place. "Why did you agree to Christmas?" I asked. Sabrina looked confused. "I didn't." Nathan spoke immediately. "My mother-in-law arranged everything." Sabrina nodded. "She called me 2 weeks before Christmas." I looked at Nathan. "What did she say?" Sabrina answered. "She said Audrey was overwhelmed and needed space. She said Lily was asking questions about me and thought reconnecting with me might help. She said Nathan had agreed." Nathan shook his head. "I never spoke to her about that." "Neither did I," Sabrina said. "I only agreed because I thought Audrey had asked for it." I leaned back in my chair. Suddenly, the entire Christmas arrangement looked different. My mother had told me Nathan chose Sabrina. She had told Nathan I wanted space. She had told Sabrina I wanted her around Lily. She had placed all three of us inside different versions of the same lie. "Why?" I whispered. Sabrina looked at me. "Because she needed you to leave." Nathan frowned. "Leave for what?" Sabrina looked at him. "So she could make Audrey believe that her family was falling apart because of me." My heart sank. "But why would she want that?" Sabrina shook her head. "I don't know everything." Then she reached into her bag again and pulled out another document. "But I think your father knew." I froze. "My father?" "Gordon Callahan." I took the document. It was an old email printed on paper. It was from my father to Sabrina. "I know what Evelyn did," it said. "Please don't give up on Audrey. One day she'll see the truth." My hands began shaking. My father had known. He had tried to warn Sabrina, but he had never told me. "Why didn't he tell me?" I asked. Sabrina's eyes filled with tears. "Your mother convinced him that telling you would destroy your relationship with her." Nathan quietly said. "She controlled both of them." I looked at him. "She controlled everyone." That night, I returned to the hotel where I had been staying since coming back from Hawaii. I opened every old photograph I had of my mother, Nathan, Lily, and Sabrina. I started noticing things I had ignored for years. Every time Sabrina appeared, Evelyn was nearby. Every time Sabrina tried to speak to me, Evelyn interrupted. Every time Nathan mentioned his first marriage, Evelyn had an explanation ready. It wasn't one lie. It was a system of lies. And suddenly I understood something terrifying. My mother hadn't simply lied about Sabrina. She had built an entire story around her. A story where Sabrina was the villain, Evelyn was the protector, and I was the daughter who needed to be saved. But there was still one question I couldn't answer. What exactly was Evelyn afraid I would discover? The next morning, Nathan called me. "Audrey, I found another document." "What is it?" "It's a signed statement from your mother." I felt my stomach drop. "About what?" He paused. "About the day Lily was born." Then he said the words I had been dreading. "And I think this is the document that proves why she did all of it." Nathan and I met Natalie Prescott, an attorney he had contacted through a colleague, the following afternoon. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wanted certainty. I wanted to know exactly what my mother had done and why she had spent 10 years controlling the story surrounding my family. Natalie spread the documents across her conference table. There were hospital records, correspondence from Street, Mary's, Sabrina's original letter, my father's email, and the statement Nathan had found. The important thing, Natalie explained, is that Lily was never in danger after the initial medical incident. She recovered completely. There was no permanent injury. I exhaled. That was the first thing I needed to hear. Then what was my mother hiding? Natalie turned the statement toward me. It was signed by Evelyn. In it, my mother acknowledged that she had been informed of the medication error shortly after Lily's birth. She had also been told that the hospital's internal review would determine whether staff negligence had occurred. But instead of allowing me and Nathan to receive the full report, Evelyn had requested that certain details be withheld from us. I read the sentence twice. "Why?" I whispered. Natalie looked at me. "Your mother claimed she was protecting you from postpartum trauma." I almost laughed. "She was protecting me?" Nathan reached for my hand. Natalie continued. "But there's another document." She placed a second page in front of me. It was an email from Evelyn to the hospital administrator. The email said that Sabrina had become aware of the incident and was threatening to tell you. Evelyn requested that Sabrina be denied access to the records and that all communication with you go through her. I felt sick. My mother had inserted herself between me and the truth about my own daughter. But then I reached the final page. It was a handwritten note from Evelyn to Gordon, my father. "If Audrey knows about the error, she'll think we failed her. If Sabrina stays close, Audrey will eventually hear the truth. We cannot let that happen. She needs to believe Sabrina abandoned Nathan." I looked up. "So that's it?" Nathan shook his head. "Keep reading." The final paragraph was the worst. Evelyn wrote that she believed Audrey was too emotionally dependent on Nathan and Lily and would eventually become difficult to control if she stopped believing that her mother was protecting her. She wanted Audrey to continue relying on her. She wanted Nathan to trust her. She wanted Sabrina gone. And she wanted Lily to remain the center of the family, because that gave her influence over everyone. I felt tears running down my face. "She wasn't protecting me." Nathan squeezed my hand. "No, she was protecting her position." Natalie nodded. "That appears to be the pattern." I looked at the documents again. Suddenly, Christmas made sense. My mother hadn't randomly decided that Sabrina should spend Christmas with Nathan and Lily. She had been testing whether she could push me out. If I reacted angrily, she could tell Nathan I was unstable. If I divorced him, she could tell everyone I had abandoned my family. If I left voluntarily, she could tell Lily that her mother had chosen to walk away. The plan had been designed so that every possible reaction benefited Evelyn. Except one. Silence. My silence had forced everyone else to start asking questions. "She didn't expect me to go to Hawaii," I said. Nathan looked at me. "No. She expected me to fight." "Probably." I smiled bitterly. She knows me well enough to know I usually do. Natalie closed the folder. "There is one more issue." I looked at her. "What?" "Your mother may not be legally liable for everything in these documents, but she knowingly interfered with medical records and withheld information from you. More importantly, she appears to have deliberately manipulated multiple people to maintain that deception." I nodded. "I don't care about punishing her." Nathan looked at me. "Audrey, I care about my daughter. I care about what happened to Sabrina. And I care about knowing that no one will ever make decisions about my child behind my back again." Nathan looked down. "I should have protected you from this." I touched his hand. "You should have asked questions." "So should I." That evening, Evelyn called again. I answered. "Mom." She was crying. "Audrey, where are you?" "I'm home." There was silence. "Who told you?" I asked. "Told me what?" "About Street, Mary's." Her breathing changed. "Audrey, please listen to me." "No, you listen to me." It was the first time I had ever spoken to her that way. "You lied to me for 10 years. I was protecting you. You intercepted Sabrina's letters." Silence. "You lied to Nathan." Silence. "You lied to me." "I did what I had to do." Her voice cracked. "You don't understand what would have happened if I hadn't." What would have happened? I asked. She didn't answer. Mom, what are you afraid of? Finally, she whispered. I can't lose you. I closed my eyes. You already did. I ended the call. The next morning, I expected more messages. Instead, there was nothing. Hours passed. Then, at 7:42 that evening, my phone rang. Evelyn. I almost ignored it, but something in me said to answer. Audrey, she whispered, please come back. I said nothing. You need to see what he found. My heart stopped. What did Nathan find? She began crying. Something I should have destroyed years ago. I stood completely still. Mom, what is it? Her voice broke. Please, just come home. I returned home the next morning. I didn't tell Evelyn what time my flight landed. I didn't want another conversation prepared for me. I didn't want another carefully chosen explanation. I wanted the truth without warning. Nathan met me outside the house. He looked exhausted, but when he saw me, something in his face softened. Are you okay? He asked. I nodded. Where's Lily? With my sister. I let out a breath. Good. Nathan opened the passenger door. There's something else you need to know. I looked at him. What? Your mother asked Sabrina to come too. My stomach tightened. Why? She said it's time for everyone to hear the truth. We drove to my mother's house in silence. When we arrived, Sabrina was already there. Evelyn sat at the dining table. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not weaker, exactly. Just stripped of the confidence she had carried for most of my life. Gordon's old chair was empty beside her. I wondered how many times my father had sat there listening to her plans and choosing silence. Nathan placed a folder on the table. Evelyn looked at it and began to cry. I never wanted it to become this. I sat across from her. Then why did you let it become this? She looked at me. Because I thought I could fix it. For 10 years? I thought the truth would hurt you. So you decided to control me instead? She didn't answer. Nathan opened the folder. Inside was the document he had found after returning to her house. It was a second statement, written several years after Lily's birth. Evelyn had signed it. In it, she admitted that Sabrina had repeatedly attempted to contact me. She also admitted that she had told Nathan Sabrina was unstable and had created false messages to make him believe Sabrina wanted nothing to do with Lily. Sabrina sat quietly, tears running down her face. Why? I asked my mother. Evelyn looked at me. Because I was afraid. Of what? Of losing you. You weren't losing me. I was. Her voice became desperate. You were becoming a wife and a mother. You didn't need me anymore. Your father was sick. I was terrified that after he died, you would build a life where there was no place for me. I stared at her. It was the first honest thing she had said in years. But honesty didn't make it acceptable. So you destroyed Sabrina's reputation? I asked. I pushed her away. You lied to Nathan. Yes. You lied to me. Evelyn nodded through her tears. Yes. I looked at Sabrina. And you arranged Christmas? Evelyn didn't answer. That was answer enough. Why? I wanted you to leave. I felt something inside me go cold. You wanted me to leave my own family. I thought if you were gone for a while, Nathan would realize how difficult things had become. Nathan's face hardened. You wanted me to divorce her. Evelyn looked at him. I wanted Audrey to stop depending on you. I almost laughed because the cruelty of it was unbelievable. So you told me Sabrina was a better mother. Evelyn lowered her eyes. I knew that would hurt you. You wanted it to hurt, she whispered. I wanted you to feel what I felt. I stared at her. What did you feel? Unneeded. The room went silent. For years, I had believed my mother was powerful because she knew everything. Now I realized she had been controlling everyone because she was terrified of being left behind, but understanding her fear didn't erase what she had done. Nathan stood and placed another document on the table. There's one thing you didn't know, Evelyn. She looked at him. Dr. Reeves kept a copy of the original medical review. Evelyn's face changed. No. Yes. Nathan continued. The original report confirms that Lily recovered completely. It also confirms that Sabrina reported the medication discrepancy before anyone else did. Sabrina looked down. You told everyone she abandoned us, Nathan said. But she was the person who tried to protect Lily. Evelyn began crying harder. I looked at Sabrina. I'm sorry. She looked at me. You don't have to apologize for what she did. I believed it. You believed what you were taught. Nathan reached for my hand. Audrey, I should have questioned it too. I looked at him. Then question everything from now on. He nodded. I will. Evelyn whispered my name. I looked at her. What? Can you forgive me? I thought about the little girl I had been. The daughter who had spent her life trying to earn her mother's approval. I thought about the woman I had become. The mother who had spent 10 years trying to protect her own child. Then I answered honestly. Maybe one day. But forgiveness doesn't mean you get your control back. Evelyn closed her eyes. What does that mean? It means you don't decide where Lily spends Christmas. You don't decide who my husband talks to. You don't decide what medical information I receive. You don't decide whether Sabrina is allowed in our lives. And you don't decide whether I come when you call. She stared at me. Then what am I? I took a slow breath. You're my mother, but you're not the person who gets to run my life anymore. I stood. Nathan stood beside me. Sabrina remained seated for another moment. Then she quietly said, I think that's enough. We walked toward the door together. Behind us, Evelyn called my name one last time. I stopped but didn't turn around. Audrey, her voice was barely a whisper. I'm sorry. I closed my eyes. I know. Then I walked out. 3 months later, Christmas lights were hanging across our living room again. This time, I was the one who put them up. Lily was on the floor surrounded by wrapping paper, laughing because Nathan had somehow managed to wrap one of her presents so badly that she could see the corner of the box. Dad, she said, you're terrible at this. Nathan looked offended. I am an engineer, not a gift wrapper. I laughed from the kitchen. It was an ordinary moment. And somehow, ordinary felt extraordinary. So much had changed since the previous Christmas. Evelyn no longer had access to every part of our lives. Nathan had established clear boundaries with her. She could see Lily, but only when we agreed. She couldn't make plans for our family without asking. She couldn't contact Sabrina behind our backs. Most importantly, she could no longer turn one person against another by telling each of us a different story. Evelyn had eventually apologized to Sabrina as well. It hadn't repaired everything. Some wounds didn't disappear because someone finally admitted they had caused them, but at least the truth was no longer being buried. Sabrina moved to another city a few weeks after our confrontation. She and Nathan remained civil, and occasionally she exchanged messages with Lily. There was no competition between us. No battle for the title of mother. I had finally understood something my mother never had. There was no need for one woman to lose for another woman to belong. A child could be loved by many people without having to choose sides. On the morning before Christmas, Nathan walked into the kitchen holding 2 plane tickets. I stared at him. What are those? He smiled. Hawaii. I laughed. You're kidding. No. He placed the tickets on the counter. You said you canceled that trip twice because everyone else needed you. So this time, we're going together. I looked at him. All 3 of us? He nodded. All 3. Lily appeared behind him. Where are we going? I smiled. Hawaii, she screamed so loudly that Nathan covered his ears. We're going to Hawaii. She ran through the house shouting the news. I stood there holding the tickets, feeling tears gather in my eyes. The first trip had been an escape. This one was different. I wasn't running away from my family. I was choosing to be with them. That night, I stood on our balcony with Nathan beside me. The Christmas tree reflected in the glass doors behind us. Do you ever think about that more? Lisa asked every Christmas. I still hate that I believed her. I looked at him. You believed someone you trusted. I should have trusted you. I smiled faintly. And now? He reached for my hand. Now I know trust isn't something you give once and never question. You protect it every day. I leaned against his shoulder. Inside, Lily was singing a Christmas song completely out of tune. We both laughed. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Evelyn. Merry Christmas, Audrey. I hope you and the family are happy. I stared at it for a moment. Once, a message like that would have ruined my night. I would have wondered whether I should call, whether she was lonely, whether I was being cruel, whether I owed her another chance. This time, I simply put the phone away. Nathan looked at me. You okay? Yes. And I meant it. I didn't need revenge against my mother. I didn't need her to suffer. I didn't need her to admit that I had won. I had something better. I had boundaries. I had the truth. I had a husband who had learned to question manipulation instead of accepting it. I had a daughter who knew she was loved. And I had finally learned that being a good daughter didn't mean sacrificing myself to keep someone else comfortable. A few weeks later, Sabrina sent Lily a Christmas card with a small photograph inside. It was a picture of the three of us from our trip to Hawaii. On the back she had written, "Some families are complicated, that doesn't mean they can't choose kindness." I showed it to Nathan. He smiled. "She's right." I put the photograph beside the others on the shelf. Not because Sabrina needed a place in my family to replace me. She didn't. She had earned a place because she had told the truth when telling the truth cost her everything. And that was something I would never forget. Looking back, my mother thought she had found the perfect way to remove me from my own family. She thought Christmas with Sabrina would make me feel unwanted enough to walk away. She thought Hawaii would be the place where I disappeared while everyone else moved on without me. Instead, Hawaii became the place where I finally heard my own thoughts without my mother's voice telling me what I should feel. The truth became the thing that brought my husband and me back together. And Sabrina, the woman I had once believed was my enemy, became the person who helped expose the lie that had controlled all of us for years. My mother once told me, "She needs a real mother." I believed those words were meant to destroy me. Now I understand that the real tragedy wasn't that my mother thought I wasn't enough. It was that she believed love meant ownership. She believed being needed was the same as being loved. She believed that if she controlled everyone around her, no one could leave her. She was wrong. Love isn't control. Love isn't fear. Love isn't forcing people to stay. Love is telling the truth even when the truth hurts. Love is respecting boundaries even when you don't like them. Love is trusting someone enough to let them make their own choices. And sometimes, loving your family means refusing to let them decide who you are. That Christmas, my mother tried to replace me. Months later, I realized something far more important. She hadn't taken my family away. She had only forced me to finally choose who deserved a place in it. If you've ever had to choose between keeping the peace and protecting your family, tell me your story in the comments. Sometimes the hardest boundary we ever set is the one that finally gives us our life back.